Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining the live panel session today, delivered to you by Schneider Electric. To all the audiences here in the auditorium, it's an honor to be here with you face to face. To all the audiences on the iCap connected digital platform, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Michelle. I'll be your moderator today. Now, first of all, please allow me to introduce our panelists. Next to me, we have Rob Bodholm, who is the Technical Sales Consulting Director from Schneider Electric. Now we have Shen Subramanian, who is the Water Segment Director from Schneider Electric. And then we have Iqbal Singh, who is the Asia Pacific Partnership Director from Aviva. Last but not least, you see on the screen here, we have a special guest from New Zealand. He's our Digital Transformation Consulting Senior Partner, calling from Auckland. Hello, Rick.
Hi, Michelle.
Thank you, Rick. So today we're going to discuss about how to achieve elevated collaboration among people, systems, and processes. If you notice, we put people up front because we do believe to achieve next generations of industries and to achieve the true transformation, it starts with people. It starts with all of us, the willingness to change and the real openness to collaborate innovatively. Now, so first of all, I want to turn to Rick. Rick, you are a digital transformation consultant, and you've been with the transformation journey with a lot of companies. Now, in your opinion, what is that fundamental step zero?
Thank you, Michelle. It's an honor being here. So for me, I'm thinking about Einstein. Think about Einstein, it's a different mindset. So when we want to do transformation, digital transformation, we have to start thinking differently. We cannot apply what we have been doing the last 10 years and assume that it will be the same tomorrow. So it's really finding out how these processes where today are done by people, how they will be done tomorrow if we can do people and technology. It will create a totally different mindset. And when we then think about how we're going to solve the problems, it's by looking holistically to multiple S-curves. And S-curves of technology, S-curve of adaptation is when you have your, let's say you have what you have done yesterday. The question is, how can you extend that? At the same time, you have to grow. And grow is maybe there are really useful optimizations you can do, let's do them. But at the same time, be ready for tomorrow. Because the transformation is there, it's real. So how can we help our customers then going onto that transformation curve so that we are ready for the future?
So most companies have been quite clear about the importance of digitization, about transformation, and I believe that's why everybody's joining iCap as well. So, Rick, in your experience, do you see people really understand transformation at its core?
I think there are two main subjects here. One we call digital optimizations, when we start with the how, the what, the when. It's really questions we can answer rather easy, but that's a very static, a siloed way of thinking. But it's great because we can automate it. And we talk about data, it's a linear behavior. But what if we start with the why? Because the why allows us to do transformative things. We can reimagine your supply chain. We can be very creative because we start from the why. We do not work with the constraints of the physical world. That means we have knowledge. It's scalable because it's digital. And if we look today, where are we going to create our competitive advantage? Our competitive advantage is created today in the digital world when we start with the whys, this transformation. And that means also, again, is our mindset. We have to start thinking differently how we work together. It's not a transactional behavior like in the physical world, which has been working really well and still works well, but it's also about that co-creation, co-transformation, co-innovation, because there is the value. The value is today is in this transformation.
So, Rick, most of the companies joining today are from industry companies across the board. So, you talk about looking the things through the why lens. How does it look like in the industry setting?
Like we started with Einstein, is changing our mindset. It's the same here. So traditionally, what we do, And it works well, and we still have to continue doing it. We start from what assets do we have, what data do we have, what are our processes, and it's really that digital optimization. If you really want to transform, what if we start from the other side? What if we start from exceptional experience, exceptional customer experience, exceptional controller experience, engineering experience? Let's assume that your customers would like to say, give me any product, any time, any location, any quantity. Of course, we cannot deliver it, but maybe we can answer the questions in seconds because it's digital. So the question is, what do you need for that? You need models. You need capacity models, planning models, compliance models, adaptive pricing models, which allows us then to ask the right questions, inquire the right models, which creates knowledge. Maybe we go then give a feedback to the customer, or then we're going to act on it on the operational side, and then the assets will perform at the most efficient way, at the optimum way, whatever they have to do. So let's think differently, change that mindset. Let's not start with what we do today, but also start thinking the digital way.
Thank you very much, Rick. As you mentioned, well, digital transformation, it's holistic and should be proactive, right? So when we look at people, organizations, systems, processes, of course, they can be improved in their own ways, but that would be called digital optimization in their silos. Only when they work collaboratively together, which we should achieve the true transformation. Now, I want to bring Iqbal into the conversation. Now, Iqbal, you're from Aviva, where you use software to empower customers, empower end users to make better decisions. So how do you see this elevated collaborations can be achieved?
Yeah, thank you very much, Michelle. So to continue from maybe perhaps Rick, at Viva, we like to say, think big, start small. And when you have started small, it's kind of a natural evolution to be able to scale. And we call that really an edge to enterprise. So edge to enterprise, really meaning being able to start at the edge level, on the traditional grounds where your data has primarily been in siloed. You might have legacy distributed systems, legacy systems that are disparate. And third, the inability because of that to really scale and integrate. So we want to move from that to the ability to break down that silos, and the ability to put a platform above all of it all to integrate any of the disparate subsystems, which then becomes again another natural evolution to be able to scale. So at Aviva, we call that the edge to enterprise. So maybe to break down that into a little bit more example, we put that into 3 segments. The first segment is really at the asset level, which is where your edge sits, where your data sits. And the second segment is the control room environment, where you have primarily where you do your SCADA, your monitoring, your controlling, or even your execution systems sitting there. Now that's collecting the data from the asset location. And the third segment is really the enterprise. So here's your ability to bring all that data into contextualization across your entire value chain from end to end, from beginning to the end, from the feedstock to your delivery. So we like to say in our context, that's really kind of that transformation journey to start from the edge to the enterprise.
So Iqbal, when you say edge to enterprise, does that apply to a specific certain, let's say, segment, for example, like apply to heavy industry only, or would we see most beneficial when it comes to bigger corporations? Because I believe a lot of the participants of ITAP are from SMEs, for example. So does it apply across the board?
That's an excellent question, Michelle. So I would say the edge to enterprise is a concept that you bring in. There are abundance of technologies in the market that bring you from the edge to the enterprise. And from an Aviva perspective with Schneider, it's limitless. I mean, we have done work from edge to enterprise, whether it's from a discrete manufacturing plant floor. It could be to a remote mining site in Australia or South Africa. We've done some of the most complex refineries in the world. And also, we have worked with governments, governmental agencies in smart infrastructure, whether you call it smart cities, smart airports, smart ports. And so it is really limitless from an industry perspective.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure, Michelle. So I've got maybe three broad examples in my mind. The first, none better than being in Schneider Electric in this innovation hub. So Aviva has, Schneider Electric has adopted rather the Aviva discrete lean management over 70 factories globally around the world. That has not just improved productivity up to 10%, it's also reduced a lot of rework or scrap costs up to 40%. And again, bring overall proficiencies and improvement in the total cost of ownership. On that note, not only is this initiative by Schneider Electric and Aviva being recognized by the World Economic Forum as one of the top 9 lighthouse factories, close to us in Batam, the Indonesian government has also recognized the Schneider factory with its digital transformation and its discrete lead manufacturing as the first lighthouse for Indonesia. Now, the second example I have in my mind is one that we probably are very familiar with from a household brand perspective, and that's Pepsi. So Pepsi primarily had been, Pepsi Bottling Ventures to be specific. So Pepsi Bottling Ventures, on a daily basis, they have changes in their recipes, they have changes in their bottling, there's changing in their packaging. So being able to be agile and adaptive is of great impetus to the business. And prior to discussing and adopting Aviva solutions, they were pretty much manual paper-based systems. Now, you cannot be agile when you're still very much in the old-fashioned scheme of paper-based. So we discussed how we would bring the existing data that sits already on the plant floor, either at the edge or either at the asset level, and bring that to a more control room environment. And they had adopted not just our Aviva systems platform, which is a SCADA level. They've also installed our model-driven manufacturing execution systems. Now that has allowed them to just immediately reduce the amount of change over time, as I mentioned, over to get the agility, to reduce that change over time as much 50%, and also to as much of 80,000 savings annually from this digitization concept. Now, it's a very special story in Pepsi because being able to know your manufacturing system, but it's also being able to capture and keep track of your KPI, of your production data, your OEE effectiveness. The real-time data isn't just available for the shop floor supervisors, it is sitting across the entire factory, whether you go for your lunch shift or your lunch break, everyone is viewing the same real-time data to ensure that they are meeting the production targets. And the third and last example, I would say, is the first Greenfield smart city in India. This was again adopted with Aviva technologies, inaugurated by the Prime Minister of India himself. And here there was a ambition to increase the livability index of Nairapur. And there was a centralized control room that they adopted and used the Aviva technologies essentially across many different disparate systems and put together all of them in one roof under one platform. And their ability to not just monitor but control essential services like emergency services, your fire brigade, your ambulance services, your traffic management, your billing systems in the country, your weather, your environmental sensors as well. And all in all, as well, even to monitor your water distribution, your wastewater, your waste in the country, the power distribution network. So these are three examples that gives you quite an example of the diversity, and I'm sure my colleagues will share a bit more in areas as well.
Thank you very much, Iqbal. So you do mention about water at the end during the smart city example. So Shen, you are the water segment leader for Schneider Electric. You've been working with quite some water utilities in the region. Now, water companies is a very interesting domain to look at because they are mainly public owned with a lot of dispersed assets, and they normally also face a lot of regulations, right? So how do you see, and it seems like they have limitations when it comes to transformation, right? Comparing to other maybe private sector companies. So how do you see what they're doing? Do you see some good examples across the region?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Yes, I will echo back to the point Rick highlighted earlier about people, system, and process, the three key domains. It's also the same for water utilities. Across the region, a lot of utilities are already started embarking into this transformation, digital transformation. I'd like to share a few examples for today, and one where you see it now is it's a major utility in Malaysia. Before that, I would like to highlight the COVID-19 situation has actually accelerated this transformation, especially for essential services like water. And Iceland is a good example. They started embarking in the digital transformation last year, where they started changing the process from people, process, and systems, right? So in the matter of systems, they invested in this intelligent command center. It's the heart of the operations, and it's ongoing process. They are making this as the heart of the operation. So this is part of the transformation taking place in Malaysia. The other next one is actually in Thailand. This is a very interesting one because this is where Schneider directly involved with this customer. So this is East Water in Thailand. They are a very unique operator. They are pumping raw waters from river in a 500-kilometer of pipelines, which is quite huge and complex, to the Rayong estates. We know Rayong, Thailand, it's actually the industrial estates. The oil and gas companies are there. They're supplying the raw water to these companies. So they started building this SCADA command center, which is quite normal, in 2015, 5 years ago, right? With Schneider technology behind. But then just lately in September, they awarded a contract directly to Schneider to, like what my colleague was mentioning from Aviva, H2 Enterprise. So they also invested in this to make H2 Enterprise. So they provided, they have already going ahead to implement a solution with Schneider and Aviva on the enterprise level. So yeah, definitely this is taking place in the water utilities.
Thank you, Shan, for bringing up such exciting examples. So, what do you see are the key
Hi,
drivers
I hope I'm
behind
not
water
catching you at a
conservation?
bad time.
Okay, good point. One is definitely safe water. The most important, everyone want to have safe drinking water. That's the key, ultimate thing. I think one of the other areas of key drivers, which I've spoken to a lot of the CEOs, are the real values. They want to really achieve to address their pain points and the real values, just like this, like 10%. Like the East Water case, we're aiming to reduce water loss up to 10%, energy costs mainly from pumping up to 15%, and overall the efficiency of operation up to 30%. So these are the things they are currently looking at as the key drivers.
Thank you, Shan. Well, thank you, Shan Iqbal, sharing the great examples together with us. Well, it's very exciting to see actually companies, both from public sectors and private sectors, have started to shift their mindset from the traditional thinking to the digital mindset. And we start to see people and companies working from silos to actually from what we said edge to enterprise level. And the end goal ultimately is to bring new experience and new values to their end customers, right? So, but to achieve all of this, you need concrete steps, it's actions. So I want to bring Rob here. Rob, you are the certified Siri assessor in the region by the Singapore government. So can you elaborate a little bit more to tell us about how Siri can help companies to start that transformation journey?
Yes, thanks, Michelle. So yes, the Siri assessment can be such a concrete step that you just mentioned. So let me first start explaining how and why Siri was developed. Many companies actually embark on digital initiatives and they're very eager to implement Industry 4.0 solutions. But actually, the same companies often don't know where they are in terms of their digital transformation readiness. And it's important to know where you are to be able to plan a successful digital transformation journey. So the Singapore government recognized this, and they, together with TUV, developed the Smart Industry Readiness Index. You may have heard of it already. So this index was validated by experts, both from academic experts from universities, as well as industry experts. Some companies like Shell, Total, they were part of this assessment validation. And today, more than 200 assessments have already been done in Singapore. What I should also mention is, so this assessment is really a comprehensive tool to know where you are in your digital maturity. The snapshot, this is where I am today. And it also gives some insight on what possibly could be the first step. So with that, let me introduce the Siri Framework. So the Siri Framework follows basically the Industry 4.0 definition. It's process, technology, and organization, or people, if you like. So via 8 pillars, these 3 building blocks then zoom into 16 dimensions. And the 16 dimensions is where the assessment focuses. So on the process, you have the horizontal integration, the vertical integration, and the integrated product lifecycle. And then on the technology, you have connectivity, you have automation, and you have intelligence across 3 physical domains, being the enterprise, the shop floor, and the facility itself. Now, shop floor can mean the shop floor in your factory, but it can also mean a process in a continuous process plant, or it could even mean the whole plant. It just depends on the skill of your assessment. Then, of course, Industry 4.0 is all about people. So the last 4 dimensions under organization, they are about people, and they touch on development, competencies, how people collaborate in the company, where are they in terms of how they collaborate, and also strategy and governance. So an example of strategy and governance could be, I have this future state I want to reach, but do we actually have a plan in place?
Thank you, Rob. So if I embark you on a Siri assessment practice, what do I get?
So the main deliverable of the Siri assessment is the Siri evaluation report. So in this report, you will see the 16 dimensions, how they are validated, where you are. And it is benchmarked against the industry. And this benchmarking is following the 3B principle or approach. And the 3B stands for bottom performer, broad middle, or best in class. And it's also benchmarking against your own industry segment via industry performance cards. And as I mentioned before, it also gives some indication on maybe which dimensions you could focus on first, taking your KPIs into consideration and your financial cost profile.
Okay, thank you. So my understanding from what you're saying is Siri assessment gives me an indication, right? Well, where I am, for example, if I'm going to start a transformation journey, where I am and comparing to benchmarking with other companies, right? Or maybe competitions. Now, I may have in my mind where I want to be. It seems to me there's still there's a gap in between, right? There's still steps
so
to
it's
go.
interesting. Yeah. So it's interesting you say where I want to be. I don't think that's what Siri wants to do. So what Siri wants to do is give you a snapshot where you are. And now we need to go back to what Rick said. The why is very important. So don't get caught in just optimizing your assets, limited to that. That's not digital transformation. It's important to go back to the why, and this is where Schneider Electric can help. So what we actually advise is to focus on 12 key business enablers. Yeah, here's the slide. And then we work with you to look at these 12 key business enablers and have further discussions on ideation, maybe develop a digital, or not maybe, surely develop a digital transformation roadmap, and also do some calculations on ROI and payback.
Thank you, Rob. Well, thank you, everyone. This brings to the end of the live panel session today. We'll leave the rest of the time for Q&As from the audience here in the auditorium, also from the digital platform. But today we discussed about how to achieve elevated collaborations among people, systems, and processes. Right? So Schneider Electric, together with our strategic partner Aviva, are here to partner with you to co-create that transformation journey from consultation, assessment, to design, execute, operate, and all the way to maintain. Right? So if we are here, you can see the contacts of the panelists. So just feel free to scan the QR code and you can connect with them through LinkedIn. If you have any questions, comments together with them, then feel free. Now at the right corner, we also encourage you to scan the QR code and fill in the feedback forms, because we'll have future sessions together with the panelists to deep dive into each topic and sections that you want to discover more. So feel free to do so. Now, without further ado, I want to ask to the audience here first. Do you have any questions to our panelists? Any comments? I'm going to check the digital platform as well. Yeah. Okay. So I do have a question actually here that saying that a lot of the companies actually, when they do transformation, actually we've seen reports from, let's say, top consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG, or even World Economics Forums. People have the ambition to go, but a lot of the time, majority of it actually failed or didn't achieve to their targeted objectives. So Rick, I want to bring that as a question for you actually. So being a consultant here, do you have some tips and traps that you want to share for companies, maybe not reach to the level that they want to reach in digital transformation?
Okay, let's give it a go. How many hours do we have?
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, thanks. So it's if we think about back 10, 20 years ago, what did we do is really thinking about how can we optimize, how can we think about the silos, and what we have been seeing for the early adapters who try to go on a digital transformation journey is to copy the same principles. It's, here's a technology, let's apply the technology. I would like to flip it, is really try to think more holistically and think about what the people first need. And what would their new way of work look like? How would that be? Because then we can articulate what the technology could be to enable them or to support them. So I would say a couple of things. Think holistically. Reimagine. So ideation is is an important part of it. And try to articulate what it would be. Have multiple phases where maybe the first one is foundation. Get your foundations digitized, but be also enough in let's say eager to push the boundaries. Think holistically, and last but not least, I would say people. Really get them involved. Understand what are their requirements. Take away the manual work. Let's digitize so that they can really use their creativity and reimagine their way of work, new way of working.
Thank you, Rick. I have a question here actually for Shen. It's because it's about water. So it's actually zooming to operations. So when it comes to, let's say, water utility operations, what's that first step to achieve actually advanced operations or transform the operations level? What is that first step?
Oh, thank you. I've across the region, when I talk to the operation heads, especially when I ask this question back to them, the answer I always get back is only one thing: is the people. I think again, what Rick was mentioning, the change management is very critical. That is one of the key issues they have. How do I change? And water, especially if you look at water, the way they're operating water has been years. It's an old way of operating. It's a services that's been there for a long time. So what they should do is to prioritize. Like some utilities have problems in water networks, the pipelines where leaks are their major concerns. Others could be on energy management. They are operating huge pipelines, pumping stations, where a lot of energy is being, not managed well, efficiency of energy. So again, prioritize this, then focus on the key pain points, the areas they want to fix first, then start from there for the operation part. I think that's where they will normally start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Iqbal, from Aviva perspective, do you have anything to add on that question of how to, let's say, transform the operations? What are the first steps? What are the major steps?
Yeah, I think it fits within the team, people, process, technology. Again, probably repeating what my colleagues have said, but it's the end state. What's the future state? Who are the consumers of who are the users in the operation? Who are consuming the technology? And it all starts with how are they going to embrace the new norm? Like we have all learned in COVID very, very quickly. And I watch an advertisement on Bloomberg, and the CEO of Freeport talks about people and the will to transform and the will to change the behaviors. So I think it really starts at the management level, at the executive level, trying to figure out how we can make the lives of the operators, the people on the ground who are actually pushing the limits of the equipment, the assets. How do we make that lives a little bit more seamless, providing them data, providing them access, and making these better decisions? I think it starts with the people. And naturally, as part of the people, once that's kind of boxed and framed, we go on with the process to understand the process of the business process, the business outcomes, what the financial outcomes that the organization wants to get. And I think once you understand the business outcomes and then business imperatives and understand the operations and the process around the operations, the last part is really trying to put together what are the pieces of technology that makes more sense to start somewhere and phase it out. It doesn't have to be a big shebang party from the get-go. I think if you start with the ability to be able to use the data that's available at your site and scale from there, I think in a phased approach, everyone starts to embrace it easier. The users embrace it easier, and they take the value out of it for what it's there for.
Thank you very much. Now we have time to address the last question. Is actually I'll deliver to Rob. The Siri assessment, normally how long does it take?
There's actually 3 steps here. Okay. So the first step is really to talk to the company who wants to be assessed and ensure they have a local sponsor who can really get all the key stakeholders together. And once that is done, there's a briefing call to explain what the assessment is all about and what is expected from the company themselves in terms of contribution. Then the actual assessment is typically only 2 days.
Okay.
Typically only 2 days. And then within 2 weeks after the assessment, the assessment report will be presented, which is a combination of some calculations as well as the assessor notes.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. So we don't have time for more questions. I'd like to make the last announcement, if you can move. So Schneider Electric is going to do an innovation summit across Southeast Asia and Japan, Korea region. So we'll do that in November. So please feel free to sign up, and we'll have more digital sessions for you to actually deep dive into our solutions and into our technologies and also into our holistic partnership together with you. Thank you very much for your time today. For the online audiences, we don't have time to address all your questions today, but we'll reach out to you separately. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.